To me about scraps. Yeah, I mean, we know that you burn some of the scraps in the wood furnace here for heat. What about waste, trash, stuff like that?
A lot of the scraps that we do create are just shavings from the wood, and it's very biodegradable. I've got some trails out here. I basically just use that as mulch on the trails. But as far as actual trash produced, there's very little. Most of the trash that comes out of here is really just stuff from people's lunches during the day. And in reality, I wouldn't have to produce any trash except for maybe used pieces of sandpaper. That's really about all that I'll produce.
All right, so we've talked about the logging process. We talked about the milling process. We talked about the shop process. Let's look at the final product.
Okay, here's a small dresser. And what I wanted to show here is how we really utilize some very small diameter timber. And the great thing about small diameter timber is it doesn't take that long for a tree to get this big. And if you can utilize that resource, you don't have to cut down old growth trees to build something. There's already plenty of stuff out there to build furniture with. And that's what I think is green about this type of furniture. We're not having to kill 100, 200-year-old trees to build something like this. We're using a renewable resource, and we're taking trees that are already dead. So we're not going to kill a tree to get this. And we're also utilizing as much of the tree as we can. We're leaving things in pretty close to their natural state. We've cut this out, we've sanded it, but in reality we have not put a whole lot of embedded energy into this piece of wood. It's pretty close to how it looked when it was standing in the forest.
So when we talk about these pieces, eventually, maybe generations from now, ending up in the trash or ending up back in the earth, really what we're looking at is just the nuts and bolts, pretty much.
Right.
As far as
biodegradable.
Yeah, right.
It's not going to be a toxic waste thing. There are things like the drawer glides. These are pretty high quality drawer glides. They're probably going to be worth something 50 years from now. Somebody might want to use them for something else.
Just take them off and throw the wood away.
Yeah. But otherwise, you could compost this.
All right, when you first started in this business, how many of these practices were planned and how many of just came naturally with the business?
I think the business itself, by nature, is fairly clean. There aren't a whole lot of things that I decided to do because it would be better for the environment. Just by doing things on a small scale, it just tends to be a cleaner business.
Do you feel that these practices hurt your business or do they help your business?
I think they help my business. For one thing, I'm not really dependent on outside sources for materials, and I'm in the supply chain from the actual raw material to the finished product to the marketing of the product. I pretty much cover the whole part. And I think that helps my business. I'm in a lot more control. I'm less vulnerable to price increases and things like that.
So, do you have plans to grow the business?
I think every business person is trying to grow the business. I'm not sure it's really that necessary. It's better that it's run efficiently. There isn't really any economy of scale in this business. So it doesn't necessarily make it more profitable if I do more volume. In fact, a lot of things that can basically just be absorbed, as you're doing more and more of it becomes an expense. But when you're just doing it occasionally, like delivering furniture, I deliver furniture occasionally, it's not really a huge expense. But if I had a shipping and shipping and delivery department, all of a sudden I'd have to have more people on the payroll just to do that. By being smaller, I don't have those expenses.
Okay, talking about outside forces. What kind of outside forces affect your business?
Well, in the last few years, the price of shipping stuff outside of this area is actually almost doubled. And that has affected me a little bit. I really never like to ship furniture anyway. You don't know if it's going to get damaged en route. You don't really necessarily know how much it's going to cost until it gets there. And I really think people should buy locally and sell locally too. I should try to market locally. It's a more efficient way. It would take much more energy to ship this bed to Dallas, Texas, than it did to actually build the bed.
Mm-hmm. So if a guy in Dallas, Texas wants a log bed, he should buy a log bed from a guy who builds them in Dallas, Texas.
Or he should come up here on vacation,
Yeah.
stay at our fine hotels, and then take one back with him.
I see.
I highly recommend that.
Uh-huh.
But to actually ship one, I don't think that's such a good idea.
Uh-huh. How sustainable do you think this business could get on a larger scale?
I think the smaller the better, really, in this business. The smaller the business is, the less I have to start exporting stuff out of the area. As long as I'm just meeting a local need, then it's great. Once I need to start shipping stuff out of the area, then it becomes less and less green. The stuff is pretty heavy. It costs a lot of money to build. The unfortunate thing is, in this country now, in fact in the year 2000, we finally got to the point where we now import more furniture than we build, which is really not a good idea. To build a piece of furniture in China and to boat it all the way across the ocean and then transport it across the country, we should be able to do that in this country.
Thanks, Bill, for showing us around, teaching us what you do. You made me feel all green inside. I like feeling green inside. Do you feel green?
I feel
Great. Join me next time. I think I will do this again. Somewhere else, though, because I like to keep things fresh. Thanks. Feeling green, feeling green. Don't you wanna feel real green? I do.